If you take the SR-54 exit past Bonita Road and look east, you'll see a toll plaza that wasn't supposed to exist. The South Bay Expressway franchise agreement promised private investors would build the road, collect the tolls, and absorb every dollar of risk. It opened in 2007, cost $658 million, and got sold as California's first public-private partnership highway. Traffic never met projections. Revenue dried up, and the private consortium ran out of money within 3 years, so taxpayers ended up owning the road anyway. If you drive the South Bay Expressway from State Route 54 toward Otay Mesa, you pass through 10 miles of rolling hills and new subdivisions on a road that cost roughly $658 million to build. The toll plaza near Bonita sits at the northern end of a highway California sold as a zero-risk proposition. It cuts through Bonita, Chula Vista, and Otay Mesa, connecting the only commercial port of entry to the regional freeway network. Before it opened, drivers to the border crawled through surface streets that couldn't handle the truck traffic. In 1989, the state legislature passed AB 680, and 2 years later, Caltrans signed a franchise agreement with a private consortium. Private investors would raise the money, build the road, collect the tolls, and absorb every penny of loss, which meant taxpayers wouldn't pay for construction, maintenance, or operations. The public would get a new highway, and the private partners would keep the revenue. That was the deal, and that was the whole pitch. For nearly 2 decades, the consortium planned and cleared environmental hurdles before breaking ground on the extension to Otay Mesa. When it opened on November 19, 2007, it drew attention as California's first public-private partnership highway. The financing revealed how much faith both sides had placed in a project they believed would pay for itself without touching taxpayer money. The $658 million construction budget came almost entirely from private financing. Only the interchange at SR-54 came from public funds, so the private partners had real skin in the game. The agreement looked solid on paper, but the receipts tell a different story. 20 years later, a SANDAG board member named Jerome Stocks would stand in front of reporters explaining why the public needed to buy back a road it had been promised would never cost taxpayers a dime. The document that proves the contradiction is the 1991 franchise agreement itself. Caltrans signed it with South Bay Expressway LP, and the language was explicit. The private partner would build and maintain the road, and the public wouldn't be liable for any cost. The private investors put $130 million of their own equity into the project. The federal government backed the deal with a $140 million TIFIA loan, supposed to be repaid from toll revenue alone. The franchise agreement was supposed to be the smoking gun that proved California could build infrastructure without public risk. Instead, it became the smoking gun that proved the opposite. Once the bankruptcy court opened the books and showed how much public money was already on the line through that federal loan and the state-funded interchange. The road had been open for just over 2 years when the consortium admitted what the traffic counters already knew. The financial model was broken, and the money was running out faster than anyone predicted. 30,000 vehicles a day. That's what actually drove on the South Bay Expressway in 2008, well below what the debt structure needed to survive. The road opened right before the Great Recession hit, and the whole financial model had assumed the San Diego economy would keep growing. It didn't, and the toll booths sat there collecting less money than the bond payments required. On March 22, 2010, South Bay Expressway LP filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The private investors watched their $130 million in equity evaporate, and the federal government took a loss on the TIFIA loan it had guaranteed. The bankruptcy meant the operator had no money for marketing or discounts, no flexibility to lower prices, and try to pull in more drivers. SBX LLC, the reorganized company, emerged free of its old debts but still couldn't make the math work. The road remained still collecting tolls in Bonita and Chula Vista, still falling short of the revenue it needed to survive without some kind of public rescue. SANDAG stepped in as the buyer. In July 2011, the San Diego Association of Governments Board voted to purchase the lease, and SANDAG chair Jerome Stocks stood in front of reporters to explain why. The public didn't buy the road to fix a mistake. They bought it because the deal they signed back in 1991 created a mess only they could clean up, and the road wasn't going anywhere on its own. 5 months later, the board finalized the deal for a price that made the original investors wince. The purchase price was $341.4 million plus $10.2 million in additional fees. That was roughly 1/3 of the original construction cost, which meant the private consortium had already lost more than $500 million before SANDAG ever wrote a check. The sale of the franchise rights lasted until 2042, which means San Diego drivers will pay tolls on a publicly owned road for decades. The 1991 contract said the private sector would handle everything, but the new contract says the public sector will handle it until the middle of the century. The irony becomes unavoidable when you look at the funding source. $254 million came from Transnet sales tax revenue, which means the same taxpayers who were promised a free road paid $254 million to buy back a road they already owned. SANDAG reduced tolls by up to 40%, which helped traffic but also guaranteed the road would keep losing money. The expressway that was supposed to prove private money could build public roads had become a subsidized toll road that charges reduced fees and still can't pay its own bills. If you drive the South Bay Expressway today, you pass the same toll plaza. The tolls are lower now. The debt is public now. The road that was supposed to prove private money could build infrastructure without taxpayer risk took $341 million in taxpayer money to save. That's the receipt. And that toll plaza at Bonita Road is still collecting.